Greetings everyone, Baldus here. In this video I'm showcasing quite a unique build for Druid, one that uses no core skills but instead relies on Earthen Bulwark detonation to do huge amounts of damage to surrounding enemies. This build utilizes the Nature's Fury key passive paired with the symbiotic legendary aspect that reduces the cooldowns of Earthen Bulwark. The Staff of the Crone helps us proc this effect with Claw and Storm Strike. I will let you watch these gameplay clips and I'll be back with the gear, skill tree and Paragon Board. So for the helmet, we're going to take the legendary aspect Protector, which gives us a barrier when damaging an elite. One thing to note here is that you will actually want to take this aspect from the codex and not from your aspect list, as currently from the codex it gives you the highest amount of barrier. But the main reason why we take a legendary helmet is for the passive stats it gives. So what's essential here is getting cooldown reduction and then also basic skill attack speed. Total armor is good as well and a bit more willpower. But the reason why we want cooldown especially is so that we can get, when we proc Nature's Fury, our Earthen Bulwark comes off cooldown immediately. As you can see, I've got 12.3 seconds cooldown there. The Nature's Fury procs reduces it by 12 seconds, so I mean I'm missing 0.3 seconds, but it's not a big deal. For the chest armor, ranks of Earthen Bulwark, that means you get a larger barrier when you use the skill. Damage while in human form is good, and barrier generation. But for the legendary aspect, we're going to take Disobedience. Everyone should know this by now, that this is one of the best legendary aspects for defense in the game, as armor currently is king. For the gloves, we're going to take the aspect of the Crash Stone. Earth skills deal 40% more critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. So whenever we have a CC up on an enemy, we're just going to do 40% more critical damage, which means larger Earthen Bulwark crits. Good stats on here include attack speed, crit chance, and a bit of lucky hit. For the legs, we want to take the aspect of Might. This makes basic skills grant 20% damage reduction for 5.5 seconds in my case. The reason why we want this, we're going to be doing a lot of auto attacks, so we're always going to have that 20% damage reduction. Other key stats here include damage reduction while fortified, damage reduction for close enemies, a bit of max life. All good defensive stats where you can get them. For the boots, we're going to take the Ghost Walkers aspect. This is quite an important one as it enables us to move freely whenever we pop our Earthen Bulwark, as it gives us Unstoppable. This really helps to track down enemies in a pack that we might need to focus and kill. Other good stats on here include damage reduction in various forms, while injured is quite good if you get low. Anything to do with close enemies and stuff like that. Also movement speed, just for that mobility. Now for the weapon, it's the only, well, it's not an exact requirement for the build, but it does make things flow a lot better, and that is the Great Staff of the Crone. So the reason why this is effective in this build is that it triggers 2 storm abilities, which can then refresh our Nature's Fury cooldown. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to refresh Earthen Bulwark as much as possible so we can use it continuously. There is an option to also use a one-hander and totem, where you can get more cooldown reduction, but you're going to be losing out on that extra auto attack hit, so you might not get as many procs on your Nature's Fury, but it can still work if you're missing the unique. So for the amulet, we want to have the cooldown reduction. That's the most important stat here, so we can bring this down to 12 seconds as close as possible. Additionally, for damage, plus 3 ranks of Envenom are very good. And then other stats I would go for are mainly defensive. The other ones I've got on here aren't really very useful for this build, such as spirit cost reduction and damage while shapeshifted. So for the ring, we want to take the rapid aspect to give our basic skills more attack speed. Again, you should know that we're trying to stack attack speed so we can do as many auto attacks as possible, and then we'll have a high chance to proc our cooldown reduction. Good stats on a ring include vulnerable damage, crit strike chance, bit of crit damage. Lucky hit chance can help when we want to proc our spirit boon. And then finally, for the last ring, we want to take the aspect of natural balance. After casting a storm skill, our earth skills gain 45% additional critical strike damage, and then we also gain crit chance for our storm skills after casting an earth skill. The reason why this is very important and synergizes well is because whenever we're doing our claw, which is a storm skill, we're going to gain that crit damage buff when we want to pop our Earthen Bulwark Detonate. So moving on to the spirit boons quickly. We want to take wariness for the reduced damage from elites, maximum life for survivability. You could also take attack speed if you want more on your auto attacks, but I found that we need a bit more survivability, so max life is good. Take bolster for the fortify for 10% more of your max life when you use a defensive skill. For the final row, you would take crit strikes with shapeshifting skills heal you. This is important whenever we're auto attacking, as claw is a shapeshifting skill, so we're always going to gain a bit of health from those crits. And then finally, calm before the storm. Nature magic skills have up to a 10% chance to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate skill, reducing the cooldown of petrify. Petrify is a very useful skill for killing elite packs using this build, as it can stun them in a wide area, just making it a bit more fluid and safe to kill. Let's move on to our skill tree. So to begin, we have our claw points from our staff, but you just want to put 1 point in here and then take the 2 passives. Also take points into Storm Strike, including Immobilize and Vulnerability. We only want to take the crit chance against close enemies here. And then we want to move into our Earthen Bulwark. And you want to spec into this quite heavily in order to increase the absorb amount. Currently with 9 out of 5, I have 81% barrier when used. We also want to take the Unstoppable and, of course, the Detonate. We also want to take 1 point into non-physical so we can get our 15% damage reduction when using a defensive skill. Also take Bloodhowl, mainly for the attack speed buff. In the companion tree, we want to take Poison Creeper. This helps to give us the poison procs and also a bit more guaranteed crit. We want to take Hurricane, and then for the CC, the slow, and dealing less damage. Now you want to take all of these earthen notes just so we can gain more damage and fortify. Want to take 1 point into here so we can get crit strikes with werewolf skills, poison enemies. So whenever we use claw, we're going to be poisoning, and then poison enemies take 60% additional crit strike damage. The reason why this is 6 out of 3 is because I have +3 on the amulet. Over here, we want to take 3 points into Defiance just to get more damage against elites. Just 2 points into here just for a bit more damage against vulnerable enemies. And then Resonance, which is quite important damage buff for this build, as we're always going to be chaining Storm and Earth skills. Then we want to take Petrify and just the first node for increased duration. This node doesn't offer us anything because we're not using Spirit. Then we just take 1 point into here in order to unlock Heightened Senses, where we take 3 points so that we gain a bit more damage reduction against those nasty elites. And then for the Keystone, take Nature's Fury, of course. Now moving on to the Paragon, I'll just go through this quickly as it's quite a big board. Everything will be in the description on the build planner, so you can have a look at that in your own time and just take your time with it and plan your own board accordingly. So for the first board, we're going to take the Exploit Glyph. This is important for pretty much every build in the game, as it guarantees vulnerable for 3 seconds when you damage a mob. So for the first legendary board, we're going to take Earthen Devastation. And then for the glyph, we're going to take Human, so we deal more damage in our human form, because that's the form we're in when we proc our Earthen Bulwark Detonate. You also want to take the other nodes to do with crit strike damage with Earth skills, resistant to all elements. Then you can come over here and get some damage to crowd controlled. But firstly, you want to attach your Heightened Malice board over here, so you can just come and pick this up. Whenever we use Poison Creeper and hit multiple enemies with Shred, we should have more enemies poisoned around us, so we just deal that 45% increased damage. Then you want to come and attach this board, which is the Inner Beast, but we don't actually take the legendary node. We just want to move up and gain some attack speed. And then also put the glyph in here, which is Undaunted. So we deal more damage while we're fortified and also get damage reduction when we're fortified. Other good nodes in here include the armor, and then you can also path up to here to get more maximum life. As you've seen in the showcase, damage isn't really a big issue with this build, seeing as how it scales. So it's important to get a lot of defensive stuff in order just to stay alive for those high keys. Moving on, we want to attach the Constricting Tendrils board, but we don't take the node again. It's just to unlock the glyph slot, where we take Territorial. This increases our damage against close targets and also damage reduction against close targets. Just want to take the rare nodes quickly just for a bit more damage and also maximum life. You can also path up to here for more nature damage, but also damage to elites. Now we're connecting back onto our Heightened Malice board, where we just path into the glyph section, where we take the damage reduction from enemies that are poisoned and also damage to poisoned enemies. The main thing here is we use Earth and Sky, This grants the 150% bonus to all magic nodes, so we're gaining that more increased reduction against poisoned enemies, just helping to increase our tankiness. Now finally, we just want to attach the Thunderstruck legendary board, and the reason for this is just to quickly get pathing to another glyph slot where we take Protector. This grants bonus to all the rare nodes and also gives us 10% more damage reduction while we have a barrier. We're going to have a barrier all the time, so it's just a nice defensive buff. It also increases our rare node here, damage reduction from vulnerable enemies, and then a bit of storm skill damage, but that's not really that relevant. We also gain a bit more damage reduction here from vulnerable enemies. Well, there you have it, guys. I think that is the end of this build showcase. I have to say that this may not be around for too long, as I think that it possibly a high chance it isn't intended to play the way it is. Those kind of numbers reaching 100 million seem like Blizzard probably didn't put them into the game on purpose. So play around with it while you have the chance. Just have a bit of fun, push some high keys with it, and that's the main thing, really. But there is a high-ish chance that this will get patched pretty quickly. So thanks again for watching. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also leave a comment saying what you think of the build. And finally, also visit me on Twitch at Baldus Maximus. I'm going to be streaming there quite consistently from now, so come and hang out there as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.